Her clipboard hit my door before her words did. "This fence," she said, "violates community code." I told her, "That fence sits on my deed." She smiled, the way people do when they think paperwork bows to them, and slid a fine notice stamped "03:17 a.m." under my coffee cup. By lunch, a rumor hit my office inbox, and my boss asked if I was under HOA investigation. That's when I realized this wasn't about offense. It was about control, and if she wanted a rulebook war, I had the receipts. That's when I decided to buy their office. The morning smelled like cut grass and hot metal. Steam rose from my coffee mug when the first tap hit the door 3 sharp knocks, then the sound of a clipboard scraping against paint. "Morning, Mr. Thompson." I opened it halfway. The woman's shoulder blocked the view. Starched blouse, sunglasses, the HOA emblem glinting in the sun. Margaret Whitfield. She carried authority the way others carried perfume. "I'm not in your HOA," I said before she spoke again. The clipboard stopped the door like a wedge. The metal corner pressed into the wood, soft enough not to leave a mark, but firm enough to prove her point. Jenny's voice came from the yard. "Dad, look. The flowers are opening. Rebecca's marigolds. Bright orange. Stubborn little things leaned toward the fence line, chain links flashing under the morning light. A single droplet slid down the steel wire and caught the sun like a fuse about to burn. Margaret didn't even look. She flipped a page. Section 1207. Unauthorized fence height. It's visible from the street. County boundary ends right there, I said, pointing. That fence is mine, and the notice, she replied, tapping the paper, is ours. Her tone didn't rise, but it had that practiced weight of someone who never needed to shout to win. She slid a stapled document through the gap. Violation notice. Filed, 1207. Received, 03:17. The timestamp shimmered faintly in the printed ink, a quiet threat dressed as procedure. Jenny's laughter faded. I felt her eyes on us from the porch steps. "Go water the flowers, sweetheart." The screen door clicked shut behind her. Margaret watched me the way a judge watches a defendant who doesn't yet know he's lost. "You can appeal," she said. "Our attorney, I'll handle it myself." Something flickered behind her sunglasses. Not anger, something colder. She pressed the clipboard harder, the metal corner biting into the doorframe. "Suit yourself, Mr. Thompson." When she turned, her heels struck concrete like punctuation. Fan 2. 425-2. The gate buzzed softly as she passed through the sound, small yet final. My coffee had gone cold, dark ripples trembling with each echo of her steps. A gust lifted the top page of the violation notice, still stuck in the door. My name, underlined twice, stared back. Inside, the kitchen clock ticked past 8. The morning sunlight hit the family photo on the wall, Rebecca smiling. Jenny, half asleep in her arms, the fence barely visible behind them. That same fence Margaret had just called non-compliant. The spoon clinked against the mug, sharp clean the day's first silent beat. I opened the drawer, pulled out the old deed. County seal, embossed and frayed. My thumb traced the raised letters, grounding myself. This was proof, not pride. Outside, a neighbor's mailbox flag went up another day, another bill. I stood at the threshold, staring down the driveway where Margaret had walked. She moved like a rule wearing heels. On the porch, Jenny crouched beside the flowers. "Daddy, did we do something bad?" I crouched next to her. "No, honey. Some people just forget where their line ends." Her little hand brushed the fence fingers sliding over cool steel. "It's our line. Always will be." The chain links caught sunlight again, bright as truth under pressure. The phone vibrated in my pocket, a new email alert. Subject, notice. Filed, Fair 22:07 time, 03:17 a.m. I tapped it open. Attached a PDF stamped, received. Her signature below the digital seal like a nail in paper. Jenny looked up. "What's that light?" The small, red LED from the security cam blinked above the garage. Steady, unblinking proof already stored. I exhaled slowly, setting my coffee aside. The fence shimmered behind her like an old promise daring to be tested. "Paper isn't loud," I said mostly to myself. "It's permanent." The wind shifted, rattling the boundary chain as if the yard itself had heard. The certified envelope hit the kitchen counter with a hollow thud, then the rubber stamp landed twice. Thunk, thunk. As if the post office had opinions. Coffee steamed beside it, leaving a ring on a grocery flyer. Jenny peered over the edge of the counter, eyes wide. "Is it from the mean clipboard lady?" "Looks like it," I said, sliding a finger under the green return receipt tab. Inside, second notice. Repeat non-compliance. A new line in bold assessment 70. The timestamp winked from the upper corner like a smirk. I exhaled and set the paper flat, smoothing the crease the way you calm a ruffled dog. Mrs. Anderson knocked softly and let herself in halfway the way real neighbors do when kindness outruns etiquette. She carried a small container of muffins wrapped in wax paper, nervous smile in place. "I hate to be the messenger," she said, "but Margaret called a special session last night. Said your non-compliance will drag down values. She had slides. What kind of slides, I asked. Pictures of your fence from 3 angles. Something that looked like a contract." She talked fast. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Some folks nodded along. Some didn't. "I'm sorry, Michael." I thanked her and sent her home with one of Jenny's drawing sunhouse flowers, a fence that looked like a crown. At the post office, the clerk scanned the receipt and handed me the green card. Behind the glass, a monochrome copier whirred awake. The warm-up hum rolled over the counter like heat from a road in August, our silent beat. I asked for a date stamp on the envelope and the notice itself. "For my records," I said. The clerk shrugged, inked the wheel, and stamped the corner with the casual finality of a gavel. The county recorder's office smelled like dust and old toner. I spread the plat map on a standing table, the paper wide enough to be a small continent. I lined the meets and bounds with neon sticky notes, lot corners, easements, the invisible edge where Margaret's will ended. Each pin felt like a plan. The deputy recorder leaned in, bored but kind. "You're the Maplewood guy," she said. "The one with the old deed." "Lot 47, I said. "Recorded pre-expansion." She traced the boundary with a capped pen. "Yep, the paper says what the paper says. Then why does it feel like I'm losing?" I asked. She slid a duplicate stamp across the counter. "Because they're loud. But loud doesn't win on record." I took high-res photos of the plat and deed framing each corner reference and seal. My thumb brushed the raised county emblem. Relief didn't arrive, but the room steadied. By noon, I was back at TechFlow, where the break room lights buzzed like tired bees. The HR poster about respect in the workplace curled at one corner. Janet from HR spotted me pouring coffee and cut straight to it. "Michael, we received a complaint from a community representative," she said. "Claims of disruptive behavior alleged harassment of a neighbor." That's the wording, not mine. Harassment, I repeated. Because I told someone I'm not in their HOA. Janet shifted, choosing a careful corporate register. "We have to consider community image. We're not taking sides, but..." "Could you de-escalate? By joining something I'm not in," she sighed. "I'm asking you to keep it from spilling online." I stared into the fluorescent glare on the microwave door. My reflection looked like a suspect in a tip sheet. "Janet, I won't be loud," I said. "I'll be thorough." Her shoulders eased a fraction. "Thorough is fine. Just careful." On my way out, I texted a photo of the stamped envelope to myself, then to a folder labeled Maplewood Artifacts. A new message pinged neighborhood updates an email thread with Margaret's name in bold. She'd attached a PDF titled Community Assurance Plan. The first page mimicked county language, but the citation line jolted me. 512-07B. Followed by a string that didn't exist in the municipal code. Faux legal. Tripe in a suit. At home, I unrolled the plat map on the dining table and peppered it with sticky notes until the paper looked polka-dotted. Jenny climbed onto a chair with her tablet earnest as an auditor. "Where do the cameras go?" she asked. "Corners like knights." I said, tapping the outside edges with a pencil. One for the yard, one for the driveway, one that sees the sidewalk without watching anyone's window. What about the mailbox? The mailbox is Switzerland, I said. Neutral ground. She grinned, then started marking zones on her screen, each a soft rectangle that turned red when she overlapped the property line. We didn't need anyone's windows. We needed our line. Mrs. Anderson reappeared at the gate, a silhouette against the afternoon haze, palms pressed together. She mentioned fines again, she said apologetic, and she said the board could intervene. The board doesn't own us, I said more gently than I felt. I know she said eyes shiny, but people get scared when papers look official. I walked her back to the sidewalk, then returned to the table and opened Margaret's PDF in a split screen next to the county code. The font was right. The citations were wrong. She'd dressed a costume in a badge. I recorded a short note into my phone map, pseudo-citations. Compare with County PO 12 to 07 only. Track the mismatch. Jenny slid her tablet next to my map so the zones aligned with the sticky notes. She'd neatly labeled each walk, drive, fence, flowers. My throat tightened. "Can we save the video if she comes back?" she asked. We saved everything I said and felt a strange calm settle like dust after a slammed door. The copier in my head warmed again that steady mechanical purr that meant process had begun. I printed the county page and paperclipped it to the violation. I added a cover sheet handwritten, "County says not HOA." The letters came out straighter than my hands felt. My phone vibrated HR. "Thanks for the update. Keep us posted." I typed back, "Will do. If it's legit, it survives daylight." I said it aloud to Jenny because I needed to hear it full size. "If it's legit, it survives daylight." She nodded solemnly, then pointed to the garage. "We still have those old cameras, right? In the yellow tote," I said. We spread tools on the workbench, screws rolling like tiny silver commas. The drill whined. Anchors bit into paint. The ladder rocked once, then settled. I ran cable along the soffit to the recorder shelf. Jenny fed zip ties through the loops and counted under her breath. In the kitchen, the microwave clock blinked 8:57. I set the recorder's clock to network time and named the profile Maplewood Watch. Jenny traced the driveway rectangle on her tablet one last time and made it green. "What time do we start?" she asked. I looked at the plat map, the stamped envelope, the sham citations, the fence still catching a sliver of fading light. 9, I said, tightening the last bracket. "I'll watch the watchers at 9. The projector hummed like a small engine warming the room. Light spilled across the wall, turning the plat map into a pale continent. Wood floors creaked as the door opened. James Patterson stepped through the cone of light and became a shadow in my boundary lines. "Lot 47, he said, setting his briefcase on the table. "Pre-expansion. Clean." He clicked the remote. The deed enlarged until the embossed seal looked like a crater. "Zero jurisdiction," he added. "On record, no ambiguity." I let out air I didn't know I'd been holding. The relief didn't feel like victory. It felt like a pause in a long climb. A microphone popped 2 little clicks from the back of the room. Sound. "Good," Rebecca Williams asked, adjusting her recorder. The station logo on her windscreen turned the projector glow into a halo. "As good as this gets," I said. Patterson slid a torque chart frame aside to reveal a small whiteboard. Grease smudges on one corner made it feel borrowed from a garage. He wrote 3 names in block letters. Henderson, Patel, Washington. "They came through here," he said softly. All sure they would be fine. None were. The pen tapped twice on the board, sharp metronomic. Then it stopped. Silent beat. Rebecca lifted her mic. "Let's start at the beginning. Authority and motive." Patterson nodded. Authority none. Motive acquisition. Method pressure wrapped in policy. He folded back the files. The bank's file tabs were misaligned yellow, then blue, then yellow again as if someone had been in a hurry, or someone had moved things to look untouched. I took the top folder. The first page wore a header that tried to sound official community enforcement summary. The footnote used the right font and the wrong citation. She dresses up fiction like it's code, I said. Costume law, Rebecca murmured. Patterson connected his laptop to the projector. Cells filled the walls. Rows of dates and numbers stacked like fences. Here's the pattern, he said. Noise, then lien threat, then sale. He highlighted a run of entries in 2019. Fine 50, fine 75 notice, or 1207, HR contact list, price, change. Sale, R2, WP, LLC. She called my HR yesterday, I said. That fits, Patterson replied. They use community image as a crowbar. Rebecca leaned closer to the screen. Where's the money? Patterson brought up a second sheet assessment ledger Maplewood. $340,000 owed to Maplewood Community Bank. Names next to late months. A column labeled mitigation that only ever pointed one way. This ledger doesn't balance, I said. It balances for someone, Patterson said. That's the problem. The phone on the table vibrated. He pressed speaker. A voice with a professional smile filled the room. Bank officer here, Mr. Patterson. I saw your records request. We don't discuss board matters. We're not asking about board matters, he said. Just the collateralization of delinquent assessments. A pause. Paper shuffled somewhere invisible. Standard security. Our clients value privacy. Does standard include accepting liens on exempt lots? Patterson asked. Pre-expansion deeds. Another pause. You could hear air move through ductwork on their side. Our system references HOA provided certifications. So you don't check the deed, he asked. We rely on representations, the voice said. Rebecca watched me over the top of her mic. The comment trigger floated between us. Banker gray line. Would you put that in writing? Patterson asked. I would not, the voice said, and ended the call. The projector hum seemed louder after that. Rebecca's pen scratched at her notebook until the noise felt like sand. 3 families. Patterson resumed tapping the names. All targeted the same way. All sold below market. He opened the next folder. Inside complaint copies, certified letters, a photo of a garden gnome with a red circle around it like it had been caught stealing. She made the Henderson boy a loiterer, he said. Turned the Patel's lawn into a case study, and she called the Washington's home office a zoning risk. I studied the times in the margins. Midnight notices, early morning calls. The same Officer Mitchell signature in 3 places. He can't be everywhere at once, I said. He doesn't have to be, Patterson replied. He just has to be on paper. The projector threw a new sheet on the wall. Whitfield Properties LLC acquisitions. Dates aligned with the end of each family's compliance journey. The column, labeled ACQ price, was a lesson in gravity. This is theft with letterhead, Rebecca said. Patterson stepped back so I could see all of it, the plat and the ledger, the letters with pale stamps like fading bruises. You want to win your yard, he said. I think we can win the neighborhood. By suing, by owning the lever, he said, pointing to the $340,000 line. Banks sell headaches. We buy theirs. We become the patient creditor. Then we unwind the pressure in daylight. I stared at the number. It looked like a cliff you climb with one bad rope. That's my house, I said. Jenny's college. Everything. Yes, Patterson said. And it changes the story for everyone after you. Rebecca's mic, LED, blinked once like it was thinking. We'll need receipts people can read on TV, she said. Plain, ugly, defensible. Patterson nodded, already moving. He stacked 3 piles authority, money, motive. Authority is the deed and the plat. Money is the ledger and the bank's reliance. Motive is the acquisition schedule. He turned to the whiteboard and drew arrows between them until the board looked like a small war. What about method, I asked. Method is the part we can feel, Rebecca said. Late-night knocks, sudden finds, HR emails. If viewers recognize the shape, they'll believe the math. I found the Henderson file again. A camera still showed 2 figures at 2:11 a.m., flashlights bleaching the lawn. The caption read, "Landscape Compliance Check." The next page was a listing sheet price cut in red. The pen tapped once more, then froze mid-air. Patterson looked at me, not like a client, but like a partner in court. "What do you want, Michael?" I looked at the plat thrown into light and shadow. At the torque chart, the picture of force and restraint. At Rebecca ready to translate law into plain language. At the misaligned file tabs that proved someone rushed when the mask slipped. "I want to make this stop," I said. "Not just for me." "Then we start with the bank," he said, "and we never raise our voices." Rebecca capped her pen. "We raise receipts." Patterson opened a spreadsheet labeled Timeline. He linked raid times to list dates to AQ dates. Lines drew themselves like someone pulling thread through fabric. A pattern snapped into focus so fast I took a breath. "There it is," Rebecca whispered. The jump from pressure to purchase. Patterson saved the file. The projector fan kicked a little higher like the machine understood momentum. "We'll draft a demand for the bank's certification trail," he said. "Then we price the debt." "How long?" "Soon," he said. "Headaches don't like staying on the books." Rebecca shouldered her kit. "I'll prep the segment. You prep the paperwork. Keep everything dull, verifiable, boring as court." I closed the Henderson folder and stacked it with the others. The names felt heavier together than apart. The projector washed my hands in light. Outside, traffic hissed. Inside, paper settled. At the door, Rebecca paused and turned, mic angled like a compass. One line for the piece she asked. I looked at the wall full of proof the arrowed board the number that might own me for a while. Bully's scale, so can receipts. The room held the words a second longer than speech. Then the projector hummed back to plain power. The living room looked like a command post. Maps, receipts, and half-drained coffee cups covered the table. The projector hummed like a small generator. Through the screen door, BBQ smoke drifted in lazy threads slipping under the lamplight. I pressed play. The wall came alive with night footage. Timestamp 03:15. The fence glinted under the camera's infrared eye. Two figures appeared, one tall, one shorter, sharper in posture. The short one raised a clipboard-shaped arm. Even in grayscale, the stance was Margaret's. "That's her," Jenny whispered beside me. The tall figure aimed a sprayer at Rebecca's flower bed. A fine mist drifted over the petals like ghost rain. The shorter figure gestured efficient precise, and the nozzle followed. The chain-link fence caught the overspray like frost. "Pause it there," Rebecca Williams said through the laptop feed. The reporter's mic light blinked green. "Freeze on the line." I hit space. The image held still a moment, pinned between trespass and proof. The projector fan deepened its hum. My phone buzzed. "Patterson." "Tell me," he said over speaker. "Two subjects, 03:15, sprayer visible. Property line clearly crossed. Intent directed." She gestures before the spray. "Then we file." Patterson said, "Temporary restraining order. Immediate relief. On what basis? Irreparable harm. Chemical intrusion. Minor distress. Judges love timestamps." Rebecca chuckled softly. "Truth has timestamps. That's our title." Jenny picked up a notebook and drew neat columns. Time. Location. Action. Damage. "I'll write what happened to the blue flowers," she said. "Good," I said. "Keep it factual." The printer spat a sheet across the table. Second incident report. 03:15. I stapled the video stills to it, each labeled with minute and frame. The deed lay under the desk lamp, its embossed seal throwing a raised shadow. A crease split the paper, now a scar from too many openings. Prop number 2 officially ran. Rebecca adjusted her headset. "Michael, how long has she had keys to your gate?" "She doesn't," I said. "At least, she shouldn't." "Locksmith card still on your corkboard?" I glanced up. It was there, tan card red font, 24/7 Reiki service, pinned beside county contacts. Foreshadow waiting its turn. The footage rolled again. The shorter figure Margaret walked the perimeter, checked the post, then nodded. The tall one followed with mechanical obedience. Every move practiced. Freeze on her hand, Patterson said. That's command, not curiosity. I captured the still time code, 03-15-18 printed labeled Exhibit A3. Jenny taped each to the wall with painter's tape, her handwriting steady, 03-15-07, spray begins, 03-15-18, command gesture, 03-15-29. Exit frame. The wall looked like a forensic mural. Rebecca leaned into her camera. This footage will change tone fast, she said. We show pattern, not panic. Pattern's clear, I said. Motive next. Patterson's voice stayed level. She's escalating pressure before your hearing. File tonight. Get me signed declarations. I filled the online template while Jenny fetched the USB. Each keystroke felt like a nail hammered straight. Attach stills, she asked. Everyone, I said, and label them in order. The printer hummed again. The room smelled like hot toner and outside smoke. Jenny's shadow moved over the wall like a small heartbeat. Rebecca's feed flickered once. We're mirroring your drive for redundancy, she said. You'll have off-site proof before sunrise. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet. This will get ugly before it gets loud. The projector light cut across the table, pooling on the deed. I noticed the paper bowing at the crease, a thin line of weakness down the center. I touched it gently. Paper carries pressure the way people do quiet, cumulative. Michael Patterson said, remember we argue in verbs. Sprayed. Trespassed. Recorded. No adjectives. Understood. Good. Submit the TTRO with county seal attached and mark your evidence log. You'll serve them before dawn. I glanced at the footage one last time. Margaret's outline, crisp against my fence arm, raised like authority incarnate. Why do they always look sure, Jenny asked. Because they've never been recorded. Her pencil paused mid-word. Are we safe now? Safer, I said. Not finished. The projector dimmed slightly, the bulb nearing its cycle. I reached to adjust focus and the sound of plastic sliding click filled the room. Silent beat. Outside, a car passed headlights dragging over the curtains like searchlights. Rebecca's voice returned through a slight echo. How's your HR situation? Quiet, I said. Too quiet? Means pressure's working. Keep your tone professional. Let the footage do the outrage. That part's easy. I slid the deed into a sleeve and sealed it shut. Jenny added a yellow sticky note. Do not fold history inside. Smart label, Rebecca said. Her idea, I replied. The BBQ smoke outside thickened, clinging to the screen door, making the night feel warmer than it should. I could almost taste charred sugar like burnt evidence. We ready? Patterson asked. All files exported. Exhibit list attached. Then breathe. You've crossed from defense to offense. Rebecca nodded on screen. Public showdown's coming. Keep calm. Keep records. Jenny picked up the remote thumb, hovering. Can I turn it off? Go ahead. She pressed power. The projector clicked off fan, winding down in a fading whir. The room darkened except for the glow of timestamps burned into my eyelids. Jenny stood by the screen door, small against the night. We'll show everyone, she said. Her voice carried no tremor. Just certainty, the kind you hear in oaths. Outside, the smoke curled silver against the fence line. Their line, our proof. The news van settled at the curb with a diesel hum that vibrated the mailbox. A boom pole rose like a flag. Microphones checked in sequence. Click. Click. Then the reporter's red tally light steadied. Phones lifted across the street, small black rectangles held like verdicts. Folding chairs scraped asphalt. Someone had strung a vinyl banner between two shrubs, community forum. BBQ smoke drifted past like weather you could smell. Patterson stood at my shoulder with a manila folder. He angled it so the sun brightened the embossed stamps. On my belt, a keyring flashed once, a bright wink across chrome. I caught the reflection in the van's window. Prop bridge laid, even if no one knew yet. Margaret arrived in a navy suit that made shade around her. Officer Mitchell pulled in behind her, cruiser idle radio muttering. She took the center like it was built for her feet. We'll keep this brief, she announced, voice already threaded with command. "This gathering is out of order." The reporter lifted a palm mic, pointed but respectful. "Miss Whitfield, we're here to clarify documents your board circulated." I raised the sheet I'd printed at dawn. The camera zoomed. "This is your filed 4/12/07 notice," I said. "The one stamped, received, 03/17. Enforcement is necessary," she said, chin high. "For the good of the community." Patterson stepped forward. "We'll address enforcement, but first authority." He opened the folder. Signatures and seals caught the light like well-set teeth. As of yesterday, he said every syllable measured Maplewood's delinquent assessment debt, $340,000, was assigned to my client. The bank sold the note. Mr. Thompson is now the creditor. A hush cut through the chairs, a pressure drop you could feel in your ears. Phones edged higher. Someone whispered, "Oh, like a candle going out?" Margaret laughed brittle. "Impossible. The bank would never." "We checked," the reporter said, lifting a printout. "Community Bank confirmed the transfer by email at 16:04 yesterday. We'll display the header on air." Mitchell shifted thumb near the radio. His eyes tracked from the deed copy to me, then to Margaret. Officer Patterson said evenly, "We're conducting a lawful assembly on private property. Jurisdiction ends at the mailbox." Mitchell's jaw worked. "Let's keep distance, folks." Margaret threw a glance at the banner, then at the chairs, then back at me. "Debt ownership doesn't transfer lien rights without board consent." Patterson didn't blink. "Liens filed on exempt properties," he said, "are invalid. The county's index shows Lot 47 is pre-expansion. No jurisdiction." The reporter raised her mic. Click. "Whitfield, did your board verify deeds before certifying lien packets to the bank?" "We relied on representations," she said. The words came out like glass. "From whom?" the reporter asked. "From established practice," she said, softer now. Phones shivered in hands. You could hear kids somewhere, then a grill lid clanging shut. I held up the cam still from 0315. The fence line divided the frame like a ruler. And this established practice includes nighttime spraying. A ripple moved through the crowd. Margaret's mouth formed a line you could level a shelf with. Mitchell cleared his throat. "Ma'am, please step back from the mailbox." "I'm the president," she said. "Mailbox is federal equipment," he replied. "Jurisdiction stops there." Her heel hesitated, then slid back a single inch. It was almost nothing. It felt like everything. The reporter faced her camera. "For viewers, this is the original filed February 12/07 that Maplewood cited. The county confirms subsection C doesn't exist. The bank confirms the debt transfer. The new creditor stands here." A neighbor shouted from the sidewalk, not angry, just astonished. "Wait, he owns the note." Patterson kept his voice low, but the microphones found it. "Paper outlives noise." The words landed like a stamp. Margaret's gaze went to Mitchell, seeking an old script. He didn't supply it. He studied the powder-coated mailbox arm as if it held instructions. "Ms. Whitfield, I said you told my HR I was a problem for community image." "I've been quiet, thorough. The record is not on your side." Her eyes flashed. "You're exploiting a technicality. Courts call them rights," Patterson said. The reporter lifted another page. "We obtained 3 prior packets with identical language, Henderson, Patel, Washington. Same citations. Same officer sign-off. Same buyer, Whitfield Properties, LLC." A murmur ran through the folding chairs like wind through wheat, Mrs. Anderson pressed both hands to her mouth. Mitchell's radio squawked. He turned the volume down until only a private mosquito lived there. "Officer Patterson said for the record any attempt to enforce HOA fines at this address, including service of notices, must now be routed to the creditor." "That's my client." The bank confirms acknowledgement. Mitchell nodded once, a reluctant hinge. "Logged," he said. Margaret pivoted to the crowd. "You all like your property values. You like order, because chaos is what you're inviting." From the driveway edge, a dad in a grease-stained ball cap answered without raising his voice. Order isn't forgery. Phones captured that line like a catch. The van's tally light held steady. Mic, click. I glanced at the keyring again as the sun found it one flare, then gone. I thought of the locksmith's card on the corkboard, a quiet bridge to the scene we hadn't reached yet. Patterson closed the folder. "This isn't a trial," he said. "It's a reading. The bank's letter, the county's index, the footage. We'll meet you in court if you prefer." Margaret's voice dropped a register an octave lower than confidence. "You can't possibly intend to—" "We intend to stop," I said. "Here. Now." The crowd went still. 3 seconds of held air, quiet enough to hear a distant dog collar jingle. Finally, someone whispered. Finally, someone fought back. Margaret swallowed. The movement caught the light and traveled across phones like a wave. She steadied the mic in her hand, and for the first time since she'd stepped onto my driveway, the sound of her breathing reached the boom. Mitchell looked at her, then at the mailbox, then at the banner that said "Community" with a wrinkle through Unity. "Ma'am," he said, "please maintain the distance." Her lips parted. The reporter angled the capsule closer. The boom dipped a fraction. All the small machines around us seemed to listen: the camera fans, the van's idling diesel, even the ice in someone's plastic cup. Margaret leaned toward the microphone. Her voice arrived smaller than the suit around it. "You own us now." The word "us" hung there, heavier than she wanted, and the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was a ledger turning. The locksmith's drill began its low whir, echoing through the glass lobby of the HOA office. Brass filings curled from the cylinder like shavings from a keyhole confession. With one last spin, the metal clicked and the old lock dropped neatly into his palm. On the counter beside him sat a folded sketch, a bronze plaque penciled in with block letters, "Legacy Order." Beneath it, my initials in pencil, a placeholder for closure. "Cylinders out," the locksmith said. "New core ready when you are." "Give it a minute," Patterson replied, flipping open a binder. "We do this by the book." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a constant hum that made every voice sound procedural. Outside, Officer Mitchell waited by the cruiser, one arm on the door scanning the small crowd of residents filming on their phones. The injunction order sat on the table stamped, "Filed, Theater 1207. Received, 0900. The edges were crisp, as if the clerk herself had cut them on purpose. "Let's begin," Patterson said. He read from the first paragraph slow enough for the cameras. "By order of the County Court, all enforcement actions under Maplewood, HOA Docket 1207, are hereby restrained. Jurisdiction is revoked, pending audit. Temporary ownership transferred to creditor of record Michael Thompson." The last line carried weight. I felt it like static in the chest. Mitchell entered hand near his duty belt, not as threat as formality. "Got a copy for the door." "Two," Patterson said, handing him the duplicates. Mitchell used a strip of clear tape to post one to the glass door, pressing it flat with his palm. The paper wrinkled once, then held a legal flag in fluorescent light. "Notice served," he said. I signed the transfer acknowledgement pen, squeaking faintly against laminate. The ink sank fast, no hesitation. Patterson watched, nodded once. "Seal precedent," he said. "Ownership and enforcement unified. It's cleaner this way." Two residents, Mr. Patel and Mrs. Anderson, stepped forward with phones recording silently. Their reflections swam in the glass beside the taped order. "For transparency," Patel said quietly, "always I answered." Behind me, the locksmith loaded the new core. The faint metallic click sounded like punctuation. Before we, Ricky Patterson said, "State for record, this is a lawful handover under injunctive relief, not repossession." "Confirmed," I said. "No seizure, just compliance." The locksmith paused, key halfway in. He looked at Patterson. "Turn now." "On my word," Patterson said. A small group of neighbors had gathered by the hedge, holding their breath as if the sound of the key turning would change something more than a lock. Patterson cleared his throat and resumed reading the injunction aloud, voice steady enough for transcription. Further, any attempt to levy fine or issue correspondence under Section 1207 constitutes contempt of court, effective immediately. He looked at me, eyes meeting through wire-rimmed glasses. You understand what this means, Michael? Yes. It means they stop. The locksmith turned the key. Silent beat. The latch caught. The sound was small, precise, a lock exhaling into new ownership. The camera flash from a phone caught the moment like a notary's seal. Mitchell adjusted his radio. County's confirmed upload, he said. Email time-stamped, received 0900. A digital overlay appeared on the reporter's live feed. Received 0900 glowing at the bottom of the frame. It pulsed once, then stayed. There it is, Patterson said softly. Proof in pixels. Mrs. Anderson touched my arm. You did it without shouting, she said. Noise fades, I told her. Paper doesn't. The locksmith gathered his tools, set the old cylinder on the counter. Want me to bag it, keep it, I said. Reminder of how authority ages. The office looked different now, the fluorescent hum steadier somehow, less hostile. On the wall, the HOA's framed mission statement tilted slightly, its glass reflecting the new county seal on the posted order. Patterson slipped the signed pages into a document sleeve and sealed it with tape. This goes to the clerk for indexing, he said. You've set precedent, you realize that. Not for revenge, I said. For record. Mitchell signed the witness line, his pen leaving a deep indent. You'll want to change your mailbox key, too, he said, half smiling. Already scheduled. The locksmith handed me the new keys, each one tagged in blue plastic. Their edges glinted under the fluorescent light, the sound of metal on metal soft but deliberate. Prop continuity secured. I looked through the glass door. The reflection showed the taped injunction, the faint outline of the crowd, and me holding the keys blurred but solid. Let's read it once more for broadcast, the reporter said. Patterson obliged. His tone had courtroom gravity. By order of the county court, notice is effective immediately. I nodded to the locksmith. He turned the outer knob. The latch clicked home a line drawn between past and now. Silence settled 3 long seconds where even the fluorescent hum seemed to bow. Silence after the stamp, Patterson murmured, is justice. Outside, the sun caught the keyring in my hand, a glint, a symbol, a quiet bridge to the end we hadn't reached yet. The crowd began to disperse, phones lowering voices soft but charged. Mitchell folded his copy of the order into a pocket. You'll be hearing from county audit soon, he said. They don't like sloppy jurisdiction. Neither do I replied. As the locksmith packed up the legacy order sketch fluttered once from the counter. I caught it before it slid to the floor, folded it cleanly, and tucked it into the binder. Outside, Patterson locked the door behind us. The reflection of the injunction faced outward like truth left on display. You ready for the echo? He asked. It's already started, I said. The fluorescent lights hummed on inside empty room, sealed and still a legal heartbeat preserved behind glass. Folding chairs scraped. The mic gave a quick kiss of feedback. The community center smelled of cooling BBQ and floor wax. Fluorescence flickered once, then steadied. On the side table, a long parcel wrapped in craft paper twine crossed like survey lines. A tag read Legacy Order. Beside it lay Patterson's ledger column, squared totals bold. My keyring rested by the coffee urn, a quiet glint. Let's come to order, Patterson said. Tonight is about setting things right. Phones rose curious more than afraid. Margaret took the back row in a gray blazer that held the shape of a lost roll. The reporter stood at the aisle, tally light dark notebook ready. Patterson lifted the ledger. Paper shifted like breath. First refunds, he read, line by line amount and source. He named the families. Henderson assessments reversed, fines returned. Patel, landscaping penalties voided and refunded. Washington, commercial use, citation, vacated, fees repaid. He laid photocopies on the table, each stamped approved with today's date. Stamps landed like small door latches. Mrs. Anderson dabbed at one eye and laughed at herself for doing it. Second policy, Patterson said. A template you can read without a lawyer. The reporter bumped the mic. Click. Bullet points, she asked. 3, he said. No enforcement without deed check. No fines without photo evidence and timestamp. No officer signature without body cam file number. I stepped to the mic, palms open. I'll add a 4th quarterly audits on the bulletin board and the website. Names redacted, math intact. A murmur ran across the chairs, relief braided with recalculation. Margaret stood. She didn't reach for a mic. I owe statements, she said. I owe apologies. She faced the Washingtons, then the Patels, then the Hendersons. The sentences were short. They sounded like receipts read aloud. Silence held 1, 2, 3 beats. Then it broke applause, starting near the door, traveling like weather. Not loud, unanimous. Post-applause air felt new, as if the room had opened a window. The room exhaled once. I returned to the podium with a single card. Neighbors, we're not building a throne. We're building a system that survives any one person. We'll create the Rebecca Thompson Legal Fund to defend families hit by bad paperwork anywhere in this county, seeded tonight by the first recovered fines. Board of 3 open books pro bono counsel. I'll serve, Patterson said. I'll audit, Mrs. Anderson added. The reporter raised her pen. And I'll watch. I glanced at the ledger at steady math replacing fear. We replace fear with receipts. Phones caught the line. It wasn't a slogan, it was a manual. Patterson handed me a thin folder, Policy Template V1.0, bright staples. Plain language. This is the part that outlives us, I said. Every edit tracked every vote recorded, every notice translated to human. A resident in a ball cap lifted a hand. What about the gate cameras? Keep them, I said. Footage deletes on schedule. Flagged clips go to the clerk. Residents can request review. Another hand. Mailbox protocols. Postal line is the line, I said. We respect it. We don't lean on it. Margaret didn't sit. She pressed her palms together, then let them fall. What do I do now? She asked to the room itself. Live here, I said. As a neighbor. Follow the same rules you asked for. If you leave, leave clean. The fluorescents hummed like distant wires. A toddler laughed at the echo and stopped. Patterson closed the ledger with a soft thud. Refund checks are ready, he announced. Sign here, receipt there. Payment plans will be reversed. The bank has our notice. Mitchell stood along the wall in an off-duty windbreaker witness without theater. He nodded once. Audit schedule posts tomorrow, I said. Same bulletin board where threats used to hang. The reporter tilted her lens toward the craft-wrapped parcel, and that she asked. I put my hand on the paper. Underneath, bronze waited like afternoon sun. We mount this tomorrow. Chairs scraped again, but softer this time. The fluorescent flicker returned for a heartbeat and steadied. By the exit, the keyring in my pocket touched the policy folder and chimed a small metal note order, not dominance. Process, not personality. Behind us, the ledger stayed open, the last line a clean zero fear reconciled into dates and amounts. The parcel waited beside it, twine still crossed patient as a promise. The camera shutter clicked, each flash bouncing from the polished bronze like sunlight in sequence. The new engraved seal caught the light. County records. Filed, FAR 1207. Received, 1207 letters deep enough to hold shadow. Jenny squinted at the brightness. It looks official, she said. It is, I told her. We made it that way. The garden path curved from the parking lot to the flagpole bench bordered with fresh soil. Around the plaque's base, wildflowers bent in small nods, stems still damp from planting. Mrs. Anderson held a tray of lemonade cups, her smile equal parts fatigue and relief. Patterson stood near the podium reading from the final page of the transfer order. By certification of the court clerk community operations transfer to resident board under Charter Revision Order 1207B. Effective noon today. He folded the paper once neatly and handed it to me. Your signature closes it, Michael. The pen's tip pressed through carbon. I felt the fibers resist, then yield a soft give like soil giving to a spade. Phones clicked. The reporter held one steady nodding to the cameraman. Copy recorded, she said. Timestamp, 12:07 p.m. Jenny knelt by the flower bed, loosening dirt with her fingers. Can I plant these here? You choose where I said. That's how gardens and communities work. The petals shook slightly as she pressed them down. Behind her, the flag moved once in a clean arc of wind metal rings clinking on the pole. Silent beat. Patterson approached with the ledger under his arm. Funds live. Clerk verified deposits refunds cleared surplus rolled to the new legal defense pool. Call it the Rebecca Fund, I said. Already done. Mrs. Anderson laughed quietly. You're turning paperwork into fertilizer. Best kind, I said. The reporter adjusted her mic. For the record, what happens next? The order stays public, Patterson said. Procedures, not personalities. Every action filed, every dollar traced. He looked to me. You're sure about stepping down as interim? I nodded. I wasn't elected to rule, just to reset. A buzz interrupted us, my phone vibrating against the table. Unknown number. Foreshadow. Sir, the caller said when I answered. This is Clearwater HOA, neighboring county. We've heard what you did. We might need guidance. I looked toward the plaque still gleaming in sun. Email your paperwork, I said. We'll help you fix it. Jenny tilted her head. Another one? Yeah, I said. There's always another one. She brushed dirt from her palms. Then we should keep the tools clean. Patterson smiled, the rare kind that stayed in his eyes. You taught them process, he said. That's rarer than winning. The crowd had thinned to families and lingering neighbors. Someone adjusted a folding chair. Another set down a cupcake plate. The air had the gentle clutter of a town cooling after a long trial. Mrs. Anderson called photo before we go. People gathered around the plaque. The camera shutter clicked again, 1, 2, 3. The last frame caught my hand resting on the bronze-edged Jenny's wildflowers in front of the flag reflection behind. That's the one the reporter said. It says everything. I slipped the copy of the deed, the same one with its long crease beneath the plaque's corner, before they bolted it down. The metal covered the paper like a promise pressed into earth. You sure you want that buried? Patterson asked. It belongs here, I said. Proof doesn't need to shout once it's planted. The hammered taps echoed soft through soil, each blow sealing a season. Jenny looked up. What's the plaque say? Read it. She wiped her hands and sounded out the words slowly. Finally, someone fought back. The line shimmered in the afternoon light. The phrase wasn't victory, it was inheritance. You think they'll remember? She asked. Only if we keep records. The flagpole rope knocked twice against metal. Across the lot, a truck door shut the distant rhythm of normal life reasserting itself. Patterson closed his binder. You kept the promise, he said. No shouting, no damage, just paper. Paper's permanent, I said. Noise isn't. The reporter knelt for a low-angle shot of the plaque. What happens now? She asked. Now, I said, we answer the next call. Wind pushed through the fence wire, a last whisper through metal. The banner from last night's meeting fluttered, catching the light, its wrinkle over unity now flattened by sun. Jenny pressed the last handful of soil into place, her fingers brown, her smile the kind that settles things. She stood, brushed her knees, and slid her hand into mine. Feels finished, she said. It's just a good start. We stood as Patterson raised 2 fingers to the cameraman. All right, he said. On 3. Click. The community photo froze us there, neighbors' paper flag sunlight and the quiet order we'd earned. Somewhere behind us, a car radio caught static and drifted into music. The note hung in the warm air like punctuation. I glanced once more at the plaque our work made solid and thought of all the others still waiting to measure their lines and mark their boundaries right. I'll answer the next call, I said.